Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Cafecito in Conversation. I am your host, Dominica Escatel. So excited for this episode because we have a lot to talk about. And I'm excited to introduce all of you to my guest, Angelina Hernandez. And we're just going to dive in. Angelina, start by introducing yourself and letting everyone know what you do.
Hey, Dominica. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for this invitation. I know the last time we got together and talked, we had so much fun that we went on for like way longer than we wanted to.
Right.
Um, but it was fun. So, like she said, my name is Angelina Hernandez, and I am a 40, almost 6 year old mom. I currently work at a nonprofit. I am passionate about health and wellness. And my other passion, which I'm now really focusing on, is curanderismo and what that means for our culture, how to keep, ancient wisdom alive within who we are, how we can use these tools to help ourselves and our children and our parents and anyone that you love, and even those that you don't know, because this is something that can be shared with just about anyone because everyone needs some type of help sometimes. And so I've been on this journey for the last almost 7 years. And I just love sharing with people and just sharing the knowledge and the wisdom that's been passed down to me. So that's who I
I love it. Thank you for coming on and having this cafecito in
am. Yes,
conversation with me or tea.
my
What
canelita, my
what
canela.
is it? Okay. Canela, just the canela, or do you have honey in there?
A little bit of honey, yeah, but mostly
Okay.
canela.
Okay, good to know. So I was thinking that just in recognizing that the last couple of weeks I've been talking to different people that have crossed my path. And it
Hmm.
kind of seems that as we're approaching November, well, we are in November, but
Yeah.
December, January, we're
Hmm.
um, facing a little bit of a downward slope in what it is facing our reality of still being in COVID. And
Right.
then for the friends that I've talked to that have been working remotely, feeling like Zoom fatigue is getting to them, and
Hmm.
it's getting to them being stuck in the house and not really being able to go to a lot of places. So I wanted to have a conversation on things that you would recommend to help kind of ease up those feelings, whether
Hmm.
it's habits or different things that you can do that can help, whether it be mental health, physical health. Like, I was thinking we could dive into a little bit about that.
Okay. So I love talking about identifying first, right?
Okay.
Everyone's needs are different. And so my first thing would be to really ask yourself, what is it that you need right now? Because self care looks different for everyone. When I first started, I needed to figure out what that looked like for me. And for me, it looked like finding someone that knew or had been on this journey who could help me. Because in our culture, we don't talk about coaches, or we don't talk about, like you said, mental health, getting a therapist, because we were raised to believe like, oh, you'll figure it out. You'll just work through it. You'll do all these things, and you'll kind of, it's almost like sweeping everything under the rug and waiting and hoping and praying that one day you're going to wake up and it's going to be gone. Right. And
Right.
sometimes that does happen if you're fortunate and lucky and magical in that way that you can, you know, um, figure it out on your own. You're like, yay, this, I was able to work through it. But there's a lot of us who don't. And so I think the very first thing is identifying what it is you need. Like for some people, it could just be as simple as going and getting a massage, right? Like right now,
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that are opening back up. And of course, we still have to be careful and mindful, but it could be something as simple as a massage. It could be something as simple as getting out and going for a walk.
Okay.
Something as like just doing your nails at home, having your own spa day. But really just recognizing what is it that you need. Is it something that's more like an emotional thing, that, you're being triggered by things going on? Just kind of really taking an inventory. That would be my first step, to see
Okay.
where you're at and like what is it that you think you need. Because I always say you can't help others if you are feeling depleted. Like
Oh, so good.
we're not, if we're not 100%, we can't give, right? And so you can't give what you don't have. And so I always encourage everyone to just kind of really have that conversation with yourself and see, what is it that I need right now at this moment.
Right. I love that tip of taking inventory because it's like I wouldn't tell someone to go to Target and shop without inventory and just walking into an empty store, right?
Yeah.
So, it's a good way to reflect and think, okay, what really brings me joy? What makes me feel fulfilled, or what can I do to raise my vibration? And I know through this process of being quarantined, what really helped me, even though it's not nighttime, I light candles when I start my day. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just something about that piece of that moment of lighting the candle that really grounds me. Another
Mm-hmm.
friend of mine had suggested, Dominica, go outside and touch a tree.
Yep.
Go
Hug
get
a tree.
grounded.
Hug a
Right.
tree. Yeah.
And I was like, what? Why am I
Yeah.
gonna go touch a tree? Like,
Yeah.
and the moment that I lit that candle, I realized, what she was telling me because it gave me the same effect as
Yeah.
touching that tree. And it really gave me that moment of groundness. But also, it's good to recognize that self-care looks different for different people because that might help me, but somebody else may prefer to do yoga straight in the morning.
Yeah. There's a lot of power in what you spoke about, the grounding, and that can happen in all sorts of ways. It really just takes connecting to things that are of the earth. So like, even when you cook, if you're like putting your hands on fresh fruits and vegetables, that's a form of grounding. If you're passionate about cooking, that's a way of, you doing something that you love. It could be as simple as potting, plants, getting your hands into the earth, into the dirt. That is also like a grounding. And all of that is what, for me, I consider it plant medicine because I'm connecting to the earth. And all of those things rejuvenate your spirit and your soul. So, see the point about the tree, yes, hug a tree.
I love it. I love it. So I know I one thing that you and I have talked about, and everyone, like, if you haven't plugged into my podcast, the She Powered podcast, I have an episode with Angelina where we're really talking a little bit more about la curandera, and having really being able to not lose that in our culture. And so I wanted to bring it up again because I think it's so important on, like, I remember that when I had stomach aches, my mom would bring me to my dad's cousins, moms, like,
Mm-hmm.
and they would give me a sobada and I feel
Yeah.
better, you
Yeah.
know. But she would give me like teas and herbs, and then she would put some stuff on my stomach, some oils to rub. And so I,
Yeah.
just wanted to also kind of pick your brain and have everyone in on this conversation, obviously. What are different things that we can use, or what would you recommend that we can also add to like our daily rituals of being grounded?
So, I mean, so I'll give you like some of the things I love to do. So, all of these things are, it's nothing new. It might be new for us to hear them because it's not, I don't remember growing up seeing my mom do any of these things, because, it's kind of those taboo things. People don't talk about it. But like you said, if you're sick, they're going to take you to go see someone, or they're or like, vamos que te soben, o que te quiten el mal, or, things like that. And so, in retrospect, now that I have conversations with my aunt and my mom, and they're telling me like, "Oh yeah, your abuela used to do this and that," and I'm like, "Why do we not talk about these things?" Right? It's ancient traditional medicine, and it could serve us in so many ways. So one of the things I love to do is something as simple as saging your house, right? Like saging
Okay.
your energy. It's a herb, sage. You can get it anywhere. You really don't need to burn a whole lot, but it works really well to clear the like chemical compounds in your home, like to clear viruses and things like that. So you can burn just a little bit of like 2 or 3 hojitas del sage. You can buy a plant, let it dry out, and burn the leaves. And anytime you do something like this, you want to offer something in gratitude, right? And so you want to thank the herb, the planet for providing this tool for you to be able to ground. And so I do that with everything, like water. When I make tea or anything like my food, I really take a moment to just be thankful and sit in gratitude for just the simplicity of having these things available to me.
Right.
Um, and that in itself is grounding, right? You're putting back in what the earth is providing for you. So that's one, like sage. Another one is, like you said, you use candles, right? So buying incenses, like some, even using a diffuser, you can use like frankincense, myrrh. Those are like powerful aromatherapy things, lavender. But my all-time favorite is Palo Santo, and it literally translates to holy wood.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's more for clearing your space, like your energetic space.
Okay.
Um, and so I always have my little, it's, you can get them at like metaphysical stores. And I know it's been kind of hard right now because a lot of places are closed. So I always say, if like it's an emergency, you can buy it like on Amazon. But just be mindful when you get it, like to say an intention or a prayer over it to kind of just clear it of any energy that, isn't, you don't know where it's come from
Right.
or where it's been. But traditionally, you want to just try and get things that you know where they're being sourced from. But yeah, I use it every day just to kind of ground myself, to center myself, to just really be at peace with wherever I am at. Because, like you said, there's so many things that are going on in the world, and we really need to use these tools to be able to just keep ourselves in a way where we're at in our own peace of mind. Because if we don't, we get caught up in all of the chaos, and it really can affect us and bring us down. So yeah, those are, I think, some of the one of my all-time favorite ones. You can use even Florida water, that you can put in a little spray bottle, clears the rose water, things like that. And you can even use those things to take a bath, like one of the relaxing things, like to take a bath and just envision like you being cleared from head to toe in the shower, in the bath. So there's a lot of things, but those are like my top ones.
I love them. No, and I love that you mentioned something about like if you were to order Palo Santo, for example, like to make sure that you clear its energy because you don't
Mm-hmm.
know where it's been. And I think that's a great tip because, lots of times, a lot of hands touch it and you don't realize
Mm-hmm.
you can transfer. So that's a great tip. So definitely, if you're watching or listening, I would say write that down because you,
Yeah.
you want to make sure you got that one down good.
Same thing goes for crystals too. Like whenever you get crystals, that's why, like, if you go to a store and you're like shopping, you always want to say like, which one's calling my attention, right? And like it's like a live thing. It has energy, right? It came from
Right.
the earth, and so it's wherever you're at vibrationally, you're gonna pick up the one that's meant for you. But I always say when you bring it home, you can do a little cleansing, run it in cold water for 5 minutes, put it in a thing of salt overnight, and then let it sit outside for about 30 minutes, and then bring it back inside, and it's cleared of anything, and you're ready to use it. So yeah, there's so many things out there, and I love sharing with people because I remember when I first was started on this journey, I was like, where has this information been all my life? And the more I talk about it with like my family members, and the more I'm like seeing that they had this knowledge and never just shared it. I'm like, why would you not share
Right.
this stuff? It's so useful,
Right.
right? And
Yeah, and that's definitely key, the ability to share it, because it's one thing if you know how much it's helped you, or it's
Mhm.
or how much it's helped people around you. Like, why wouldn't you want to share that?
Yeah. And
For
it's something that's so simple, right? Like, I mean, and that's kind of like the basis of everything I do. You know, God, the universe, whatever you believe, didn't intend for the things that are naturally provided to us to be kept away from us. They are meant for us to be used to do our rituals, to do healings, to do ceremonial things to empower each other and lift each other up. And I always think, like, I feel like for as much as we're advancing, there's a part of like the world that also needs to connect back to the time when our ancestors, walked this earth. Because those are the things that I think, for me personally, I've seen more healing, have received more healing from those things than any physician I've ever seen, to be honest. So,
right. No, that's so true. So let's talk a little bit about crystals, because I feel like there's such a stigma attached
mhm,
to someone that is, you know, uh, for the lack of a better word, playing with crystals or has
yeah,
crystals around them, that, oh, you don't know how to handle the crystal, something awful could come in, or just, that stigma.
yeah.
And so,
Girl, I was told not to do yoga because you don't know what that could bring in. And I'm like, have you ever tried yoga? Do you even know what the principle is? Like, so yeah, I mean, there's so many things. I think, this is the time we could use to educate people.
yes,
So I just actually had this conversation with someone who had that situation where they're getting into crystals and their mom was like, why are you bringing those into my house?
okay,
And I think it's so just odd. And this is like right during Dia de los Muertos, right? Like, so we all have a tradition of having an altar for those who have passed, right? We honor our deceased family and friends, and so I basically told her, I said, look, you can tell your mom, like, in the churches, the Catholic churches, you see them adorned with gold, like, all kinds of things, right? Like from the robes that the priests wear to the things in the church. And I'm like, what do they think gold is? Gold is a mineral, right, that comes from the earth that they use in rituals or prayers or adoraciones or
right,
whatever, right? So a crystal is no different. It comes from the earth. It's a mineral, like, formed in the earth, and so it has those same type of energetic healing abilities, the same as gold or silver or any of those things. Like when they make rosarios y los hacen de oro, it's the same thing. And so I basically just encourage people to just really tune out tune out the things that don't serve you, right? Like, the people in your life are probably going to be the ones that are trying to save you or protect you and teach you what's right and wrong. But I just feel like what's wrong and right for me may not be what's wrong and right for you. And so I now come from a place of not judging others because I don't know what that person's walk has been. I don't know what that journey is. And so I think, use the things that are going to help you to heal or to get through a rough time in your life, regardless of what other people say. And so if crystals are something that you feel like you need to use as a way to work through some things, by all means. I mean, there's so many things, right? Like rose quartz crystals are really good for healing heart issues, like, traumas, if you've been, in an emotional place that you want to work through some stuff. Lavender, same type of thing. I mean, we can go on
right,
for so much time here when I start to open up about all these colors and, think how, with the chakras and like what they each represent and the crystals that can be used for them. But I would just say, do what's right for you. And if you can start with something as simple. Like I actually have, I'll show you.
Okay.
This is see, it's in the shape of a heart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's green. Green can also be used for, heart, raising your heart vibration. And so for me, this little, I mean, it's pretty big, but I
Mm-hmm.
use it anytime I do a meditation when I want to bring in abundance.
Okay.
Right. So green to me represents money.
Mm-hmm.
So also connects to nature because, there's so many things in nature, like the
Right.
trees, the grass. And so whenever I want to just focus on setting my intention of what I want to call in, I basically hold this and I go through my meditation and I focus on the energy that the crystal provides me. And I listen. I listen to what comes through when I'm, done meditating, and I
Right.
get my journal and I write out, and then I have that as my guidance. Okay, like this is what came up for me, so I'm going to go down this path. So that's how I tend to use crystals. I use them a lot for meditations and things like that. And you can use them a lot for protection. Like hematite is like the black. You can find even jewelry made out of it.
Okay.
And it's used for protection whenever you're in a space where maybe, you don't know, you're going to a place where there's a lot of people that you might not know. You want to protect your energy.
Right.
So you can use a hematite ring, earrings, necklaces. There's so many things. And then like this, this is like they're mala beads, and they
Okay.
use it a lot for prayer. But I use them for whenever I like to get a mantra really like programmed into my mind where I don't doubt myself. I use that as I count the beads and I do it in a prayer.
Okay.
And so these are all things that are just tools that are different from different cultures that I've learned. Um, that's still part all for me of curanderismo because I feel like I've merged my stuff that I've learned, from a Mexican perspective, but also
Mhm.
I love learning about other different things that other people learn in their cultures, and I kind of just merge and adapt. And it's been super fun and enriching. Like I wish that more people were having these conversations because it really has changed my life in so many ways. And I'm in a much better space. I think when things happen or come my way that I know that I can't control, I can be centered and be like, okay, I can't control this, but how can I don't want to react to it. What can I do? Right. And so I come back to my tools like grounding and sitting in prayer, sitting in meditation, haciéndome una limpia,
Right.
things like that, drinking my herbal teas, all those things. So
No,
that's
yeah, I love that. No, and thank you for giving examples and really talking about it because I feel like, you know, not knowing what that looks like if you haven't really dabbled in it, like it gives a really good kind of visual. Like,
mhm,
oh, okay, well, that's not so bad. Or I've
yeah,
had that different in my head, and like I can do that. And, especially when it comes to vibration, I feel like I'm going to use me as an example. It took me a long time to understand that I was very prone to being in different places where if people had really low energy or were
mhm,
feeling bad like that, I was so susceptible to that and my body would react to it. And I
mhm,
wouldn't understand why. And having the opportunity to really identify that, like then now I know that now there's things that I can do that can help me raise that vibration level or feel again like that like maybe that gray cloud that I thought was over my head, I can do things to make sure that it leaves versus in the past, like I wouldn't really know what to do and it would just stay there, you know.
yeah,
And so when you're able to recognize that things deplete you or that it's very easy for you to take things on, like these are the tips that you can do to help shift that because I know through COVID, energies are more um, sensitive, or people can be more sensitive because a lot of stressors, a lot of things going on. But if you do what you can control for yourself, that can help you not fall into those energies.
Yeah. And to your point about the COVID, I think I always think about, so my kids are older. I had kids in my 20s, and so I look at my sister now who has my nephews are a lot younger than my kids, and sometimes I tell her, I said, there's nothing wrong with teaching our kids that we also can need a timeout and that we need our space. Like right now during COVID, people are wearing, I mean, we always wear these hats, right? Like mom, dad, teacher at home after home, when you would get home from work, caring for people at home, you're the caretaker. So we're still wearing all those hats, but it's just more intensified because we can't even go anywhere.
Right.
And so I tell her it's okay to teach them that we can take time out as adults because we need the time to decompress, to just be alone. And I often I use energy healing. I've used it on my nephews. I use it on my sister. I use it on my mom. And I tell them like, this is, we're healing our spirit, right? So
Right.
they understand that there's so much more to them than the physical body.
Right.
So by bringing their awareness, my nephew is very in tune to like his energy. And so I also have a nephew who has autism. And so for him, like when I talk to him, he feels so calm. Like whenever I do energy healing on him, he feels so calm, and like he doesn't understand like fully what I'm doing, but he just knows he feels better. Right. And so if we can teach our kids that we're just trying to feel better, right? If we take a 5-minute timeout or a 10-minute timeout, then that's like a tool that we're teaching them too, so that when they get to be adults, they can say like, oh, I remember when my mom had to take a time out, right?
Right.
So yeah, there's so many things, especially right now. And with the winter months upon us, and us, like at least during the summer, we could go out, get the vitamin D, and that would make us feel better. But now in the winter months, right, that we're just now going to be at home, what can we do? And so food is very much an important topic to this. These are the months where we get to eat all the food that we normally wouldn't eat during the year, like yeah, and pozole and pan dulce. Like I'm already like, oh, I know what weekend I'm gonna do what. But with that also comes the sadness, right? That we might not be able to sit with family this year, and so how do we get through that? And I think it's just really talking about it, really just saying like, I really miss, for as much as like she's like in my, I don't know, this is me talking about my family, but, a bunch of cheese miss all the time, but still you miss that, right? The interaction of being able to have 3 conversations in one. And so I don't know, for us, I'm doing a lot more Zooms, doing FaceTime calls, having group chats. I think too, the biggest thing right now is just connecting from social media when you don't need to have it present in your life, because that for sure is gonna like zap your energy in a way that you do not want to go. Like, save your heart and your spirit from all of the things that can take you down that like negative rabbit hole, because all those things really are irrelevant and they're not going to help you. If anything, it just makes you feel worse. And so I've had to do that a lot these last couple of weeks.
Yeah. Oh no, fingers crossed because I think that was one of my lessons through COVID is and reflecting like, okay, what am I going to take away from this experience is really being able to set that phone like
Down.
5 feet away from me so I have to physically get up and go get it. And it's not that I feel like I lived checking social media or looking at my phone, but I realized like that I really need that disconnection and that it was fine. I can just see whatever somebody posted later. But before I knew it, I really wasn't on it. And I didn't realize that how much that influenced how I was feeling, especially, with our with everything, happening with social justice and our political climate and just seeing a plethora of negative things of that sound really scary with COVID. And that really helped. That really was a shift that, going back to the original question of like, well, what can we do to help us feel better and get us in
Mhm.
a routine? And it was really having an intentional disconnect with that phone.
Yeah, like it's so huge. I mean, I can't tell you, like, I went to a retreat a couple of months ago, and one of the things, like a rule, was we couldn't have our phones. And so, for I want to say probably 10 hours of the day, I didn't have access to my phone. And it's kind of like, I always say, like, if you ever been to Mexico, right? Like, my grandmother lives in the rancho still. And so, cell service is still kind of spotty in a lot of places. But the other thing is, like, there's nothing to do there but to just sit and be, right? People sit outside their homes and just watch the day go by. And so it used to be such a like weird concept growing up. But
Mhm.
now, like this last time that I went, I thought, man, like what peace, right? To not have to be tied to anything, that you don't have to be somewhere at a certain time or have an expectation that things have to get done. You're just kind of living, right? And so I'm like, now as an adult, I look at that and I think, how beautiful, how like I want to do that now. Like I want to be able just to quit my job and be like, I'm just gonna live somewhere on the land. Yeah, right. Like I want to buy some land, and I want to move all the people that I want to associate with into this like land and be there and just be, be
Yeah,
real. So yeah, disconnecting for sure is super vital. Even if you do it for like an hour a day.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. It does really make a world of a difference. I was scrolling through, I think it was Instagram. That's kind of my go-to place recently. And I came across glamping. I didn't know it was a thing, glamour camping. And I thought, wow, how amazing. Like this definitely needs to be a goal in the immediate future to go out and just feel one with nature and enjoy it and really disconnect. And, I think it's a temporary fix until that land comes across.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what's funny is I never used to enjoy the idea. I would always be like, who wants to go lay out on like in the dirt? Like I need like a bed. I need like, if you want to take me camping, like rent a cabin and I'll be there. But now it's a total opposite. And I just want to like lay under the stars. I just want to like, receive that energy. And yeah, that in itself is very powerful.
Right. I didn't camp till I was an adult, and that was because I had friends slash colleagues invite me to go camping with them one season, one summer, and I'll be so ever grateful for that experience. I'm grateful forever
Yeah.
because growing up in a Latino family, we don't know what that is. I didn't know what that was, and I'm like, what? You guys are going camping? Like, what is that? And you
Girl,
know,
I was lucky if they let me spend the night somewhere. Okay, that never even happened.
right.
Yeah,
Right. And so I'm like, okay, let's do it. And it was the most funnest, grounding, like amazing experience. And now that I know that there's places that exist that are a little
yeah,
bit more like posh, or, you
yeah,
know, it's like okay, I can do that, and it's a great reminder to like really have an opportunity or give yourself an opportunity to disconnect in that way and be
yeah.
one with those that you want around you too.
Yes. And I think too, it's like talk about powerful medicine. When I think most people, at least that I've met, sitting in silence with your thoughts is a scary thing, right? And so a lot of times that's why we want to stay busy, because we don't want to have that like inner conversation. But there's such a that's doing the work, that's doing the healing that needs to happen. And it doesn't have to be scary, and you can use all the tools that are available to you, and that doesn't mean you're doing anything bad. um and I'm going to leave you with this little comment. I was just talking to a friend who was saying, but what do you do when people tell you that this isn't of God? You know, that's like the most question I get. And so I told her, I have a really good friend who is a deep, like, Christian, like, she knows the Bible scriptures back and forth. Like, anytime I text her, I'm like, hey, where in the Bible does it say this and this and this? She'll be like, oh, and she'll give me the place in the Bible. But one time we were having this conversation and she used this analogy with me. And I thought, oh my God, like, such a weird analogy, but it makes so much sense. And she told me, Angelina, she's like, imagine God like the bank. Like, I go to Bank of America, maybe you go to a credit union. And I was like, yeah, I do. And then she's like, okay, the bank is doing the same thing. The money is doing the same thing at the bank, right? Like, it's either earning interest, like, it's sitting there waiting for you to be used. Like, it doesn't matter what bank you're at, the money is the same. She's like, and that's how the relationship with God is. Like, it doesn't matter what tool you're using, as long as you're doing it from a place from, your place from your heart, that you want that connection. God doesn't, like, he doesn't care. He just wants that relationship with you, whether you do it through prayer at home or you do it through a church. Like, to him, all that matters is that you're seeking to find that relationship with him. And so I was just like, okay, I would have never used that analogy, but thank you, because that makes so much sense. Like, so all our avenues can be different, but we're all kind of seeking the same thing, right? That, like, internal dialogue, that peace, that connection, that knowing that something is there guiding us and protecting us. And that's all it is.
Right. Oh, so good. So good. And with that said, friend, is there anything? We are totally out of time. And so I want to make sure that you share where everyone can connect with you. And
Oh,
if
sure.
there's any last thoughts that you want to share, yeah, please share.
Let's see. I think my last thought would be is just to take care of yourself. Whatever way that looks like for you. Don't be harsh on yourself. If today isn't a great day, recognize that it's not forever. It's just a moment in time. And, like the saying goes, this too shall pass. All of this COVID stuff is going to pass. And, a year from now, we'll be looking back at the time that, I guarantee that if you were to poll a lot of people, they'd be thankful because they were able to connect with family in a way that they had it in a long time. So I would just say that take care of yourself any way that you feel is right for you. And you can find me at my Instagram is Blissful Latina. Same thing on Facebook. My website's coming up pretty soon, blissfullatina.com. So yeah, I'm happy to share. And anytime if anyone has any questions, reach out. I love to share. And thank you, Dominica, for this opportunity. I always love connecting and chatting.
No, of course, thank you for our guest and everyone. You can definitely keep this conversation going with us. We upload these videos. If you're watching us on Roku, you can connect with us through YouTube and leave us comments. Let us know what you're thinking, what resonated with you. And or if you're listening to the audio, we connect it to the podcast. So there's different ways that you can connect with us, and definitely keep this conversation going because it is so important. And with that said, we will see you on the next episode of Cafecito in Conversation. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you in the next episode.